Whether it's picking up the phone to cold call or whether it's picking up the phone to speak to a stranger, it's going to feel uncomfortable and it's going to feel awkward. In this video, I'm going to break down my step-by-step process that got me from being this introverted, quiet, shy kid to be able to speak to anybody who's willing to pick up the phone. If you're new to the channel, my name is Bennett Schwartz and I am a high-performance coach. I help people live richer lives both personally and professionally, so if you're looking to become wealthy, make sure to subscribe. We're going to break this framework into 3 different pieces. The first is what we're actually feeling. If we can understand what we're actually feeling, then we'll be able to understand what the mindset is that we're going to need to do in order to not feel that way. And third, we're going to practically break it down step by step what it is that we need to do in order to make sure that we are making the cold calls that we want. So when it comes to a cold call, why is it that you feel nervous in the first place? You see, most times when people pick up a phone to speak to a stranger, there's this discomfort inside and there's this feeling of like, what is going to happen from this call? But if I told you, if you call this number, I guarantee you're going to close this person. This person is the hottest lead. All you got to do is just tell them what you're offering and then they're going to be able to close it. So you're probably not going to be so scared to make that call. And on the other extreme, if I told you that no matter what you do, this person does not need your services, so then you're gonna have this expectation of this person's not gonna say yes, therefore I don't have to be nervous about this call because I know what's going to happen. So we have to realize that when we get on these cold calls, the expectation is that we just don't know what's gonna happen on the other side of the call. If we could start to recognize, you know what, there are certain things that we can do to try to enhance the call, to try to make it happen, then we'll be able to realize that there are certain things that we can be working on. But those certain things and those steps that we can get ourselves to make those calls and to become more comfortable is the process that we need to do in order to continue to make those calls. And so many times people put more pressure on themselves because they feel like it's on them to actually make the sale. So recognizing that yes, it might be on you, but if we're just getting started and we're just calling people, guess what? There's no reason why you should be good at it. So we have to realize that the more reps we can put in, the better we're gonna get, the stronger we're gonna be able to do it, and the more calls we can actually make. And that shifts us to our first piece of the mindset pie. Recognizing that number one, we have to realize that sales is a skill. Yes, when I first came into sales, I didn't realize that it's something that you can work on. But guess what? There are hundreds of books. There are hundreds of podcasts. There are so many different videos that you can watch on YouTube that teach you how to do sales and the sales techniques to close people. And if we could realize it, you know what? Just like playing a sport, if you're playing basketball, guess what? There are certain skills that you need to be learning. So if you want to become an entrepreneur, if you want to go into business, you have to realize that there are certain skills that you need to be doing. Sales is one of those skills. So realize that we can actually work on ourselves to become better salespeople in order to continue to make those closes happen. The second shift we need to make is to realize when we come onto the phone call, if you would ask somebody, what is it that you're really looking for? So they would tell you, I'm looking for confidence. And the truth is confidence is not really what you should be looking at. Confidence only comes after the fact. After you close hundreds of people, then you can have the right to be confident in making cold calls. We have to build the courage in order to do the things that we're looking to do. So instead of thinking that you're supposed to be confident when you make these calls, realize that I'm supposed to be courageous to make these calls in the beginning. And if we could understand that that's the energy that we're coming out with, that I need to be bold, I need to be courageous, I need to do all these things in order to get me better and better and better at this skill, then I'll be able to step up and to make the phone calls. We won't have to be scared to actually dial the numbers. We won't have to be scared to get on the call. We won't have to be scared when they have an objection and to how to loop them back in to be able to make the attack. And we could do those different things and recognize that I'm supposed to be courageous in the moment and not confident in the moment, guess what? We'll be able to get more reps in, be able to get better, and then you look back in a couple of weeks to realize, oh my gosh, look how far I really have come. The third idea is recognize that the sale only starts when they say no. If somebody works at a retail store and somebody comes into the store and says, hey, I'm looking for a ladder, and you tell them, oh, it's in aisle 13, guess what? That's not really sales because they're coming in for a specific product and you're just telling them where to go. Sales only happens when the prospect says no. And that's where you really differentiate the people who are beginning to the people who are veterans at this. The people who love the no are the ones who recognize that once they say no, that's when the fun begins. That's when I have to loop them back in order to continue to try to close them. And it doesn't mean you're going to close them right then and there, but it's the beginning of the process. Disclaimer, of course, we're assuming that this person needs your product. If you're trying to sell them roofing roofing material and they don't even have a house, then of course they don't need your product. But assuming that they do have a house and they do need a roof and you are a roofer, then once they say no, that's when the sale actually begins. Once we realize that, then we're gonna get comfortable with the no, because when somebody says no, it's really only gonna help us to get to the next stop on the sales process. Once we do that, then we could go back to our skills and look to constantly loop people back in. And there's so many YouTube videos, I'm not gonna speak about that on this video, possibly on another video, what is that we can actually say to people when they are looking to say no. And this brings us to our third topic of practically what are we supposed to do. So the thing that I do with my clients, and the things that I used to do, was that I used to break down the whole sales process into small little steps. And depending where you are, depending on your experience, you're gonna be somebody who can't even dial the phone number versus somebody who can actually get on a call. And recognizing that there are going to be different processes around the way. So if you're somebody who's just getting started and you are scared to even pick up the phone, I would say this: just pick up the phone 5 times. No, I'm not even saying call people. Pick up the phone. Second step, just put the number in your phone. Do that 5-10 times. Do that for 2 days. Third step, just press send. Doesn't matter what happens. Doesn't matter if you close them. Doesn't matter if they pick up. Doesn't matter if they don't pick up. But pressing send. And what we're end up doing is we're actually building the muscle to get better at each step along the way. Why should you be good at initiating a conversation if you've never done before? We assume we should be, but there's no real reason why we should be. So realizing that is extremely important when it comes to these types of activities. Once you're somebody who can actually initiate a call, once you're somebody who can actually be okay with getting a yes or getting a no, then we can actually start working on the sales. But if we can't even pick up the phone to call these people, then guess what? We're not gonna be able to get better at the process down the line. At the end of the day, we wanna be able to have these people in our contact to be able to close them as clients. And we could just really close that gap and learn every single process along the way, from picking up the phone, putting the number in, to dialing, to calling, to actually speaking to somebody, to actually get them to say yes, to get them to say no, to how to loop them back in till we actually close the sale. This is all an incredible skill. If you're looking to become an entrepreneur, it's probably one of the most important skills to learn in the beginning. That being said, so now we have all these different things that we can be doing in terms of cold calling. Recognizing, number one, the only reason why we're really scared to get on these calls is because we're nervous, because we just don't know how the call is actually going to go. But the more practice we get, the more we can be courageous, the more we can step into the situation, and the better we're gonna be, the better we're gonna be getting at sales. And honestly, this whole idea, you break it down, really applies to any area of life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's health. Break down what gets you really nervous about it, and really look to take the small steps and really chop it down. And the smaller steps you have, the easier it's going to be. Because if I would tell you, hey, all you have to do today is just put 5 numbers in your phone, and in 3 months from now or in 6 weeks from now, you're gonna be able to call anybody like that, guess what? You'd look back and be like, yeah, that's silly. And if I would have said to you, hey, 3 months ago, if you would have done that, where would you be today? You'd also be like, I'd probably be a lot further along. So go get calling. If you have any questions, if you like this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share. We'll see you guys on the next video.